Hello everyone. So in this video I want to talk about 1956's stone cold classic Forbidden Planet, and specifically I want to talk about some of the stuff that I actually don't hear other people saying about the film whenever I watch videos on YouTube, doing a bit of research and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, so bear with. Let's go into it. Let's explore the film a little bit together. So first things first, yeah, Forbidden Planet. Everybody says how great the special effects are, that magical soundtrack from Louis and Bibi Baron, like it's just second to none. Set design, pacing, plot, acting, everything comes together like just like the best salad you've ever eaten kind of thing. And what nobody ever says though about it is that for all of that, forever how much it is all of those things, and it is, and like I'm not diminishing any of that at all. I love the film. It is one of my favourites, and if I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably the first out and out sci-fi film I ever properly sat and watched and enjoyed with my dad. So yeah, I've got great feelings about that film. But nobody ever says this about it, because for all of that, the film is 100% another allegory for contemporary Cold War shit that was going down at the time. I'm going to explain that to you, and I'm not very articulate, and I don't actually script these videos, so you have to bear with. So like I've mentioned before, I'm chronically dyslexic, so if I did script them or wrote notes and stuff, I wouldn't be able to read it anyway. So that's just, you have to bear with, right? So I believe that this is a real Cold War film, in the sense that you're getting this man who has been studying this kind of alternate philosophy, this alien philosophy, for 20 years now, and he's lost somewhat lost a bit of his humanity because of it. Okay, so there's that. Okay, fair enough. So that's just, let's swap that in for communism at the time. Fair enough. But there again, we start getting a bit stronger, because we're talking about the villain in this film is Dr. Morbius's own subconscious, and the subconscious monster, which is powered by this alien apparatus, which he's discovered. And to me, again, that's just Cold War stuff. But what really is the real slap in the face for this kind of stuff, it's like, oh yeah, come on, how did I not notice that? There's two scenes, right? One scene that is 3/4 of the way through the film, and it is hands down one of the best moments in science fiction history. I'm talking, this is Death Star trench run, this is Spock dying, this is ET phoning home levels of great science fiction filmmaking, and this is the bit they have a epic set piece battle with that monster. Okay, the monster, Dr. Morbius's id monster. And when you look at the film as a whole, it's about 3/4 of the way through the film. An actual fact, that scene only lasts about 3.5 minutes. When you watch it, you think it's gone on for about half an hour or something, because it's just like that well done. All hand painted special effects as well. They had the guy from they borrowed an animator from Disney to draw it on directly onto the film and animate it. Fantastically done. But if you look at the film as a whole, and you look at a very muted colour palette of the film, with the exception, as far as I can see, of the carpets in Morbius's house, you don't see the colour red anywhere. Nowhere at all do you see the colour red, until a gigantic red monster turns up and they have to do battle with it. And the only thing holding it back, but crucially not defeating it, the only thing holding it back is the might of the American military there. Gigantic red monster. I wonder who that could be talking about. I'm not saying it's entirely communist as well. I mean, let's face facts here, red is the colour of socialism, in National Socialism, but also red was the colour of the Nazi Party, wasn't it? Yeah. Which actually segues me into my next big point about that film. I really do genuinely feel that for all of its Cold War stuff going on, I think it's a reflection as well on the horrors of the first part of the 20th century. Remember, this film was made in 1956. World War II had just finished 11 years before that. We're just starting to see America as a global hegemon and all that kind of stuff. But the film is about, again, it is about the horrors of the first half of the 20th century. It's about those Stalinist purges. Like, I mean, you get that line where Morbius is explaining what happened to the other settlers that arrived on the planet, and he says they died because this monster came and took them in the middle of the night. It never showed itself, and me and my wife and my daughter was immune to it because we had a special affinity with this planet. And he's saying that, yeah, he's saying that at face value. You can take that and you can move forward with the plot. That's fine. But what I'm hearing him say is everyone else got killed because they lacked ideological rigour. They was taken in the night by a KGB or something, you know, or shall we say the Gestapo or something like that, you know. That's what he's driving at. So there's that element to it. Also, he's talking about more so than that line there, when he's talking about this id monster, this subconscious monster. They're also talking, and he says that the Krell race was wiped out in a single night of violence. They're talking. What he's saying there is, I think that the writers are subtly saying, like, look, no matter how rational you are, how scientific you are, how intelligent, how peaceful and pacifistic you are, no matter who you are, right? When it comes to the crunch and you've got these ideological frameworks around you, you will commit some seriously violent and horrible stuff. You will take part in massacres. You will take part in all of the really violent and horrible stuff that happened in the first part of the 20th century. You'll be part of those purges. You'll be part of the Holocaust. You'll be part of everything, all that horrible stuff, because it was, at the time, it was just ordinary people that enabled that. If you look at the occupied Europe, it was like French civilian policemen, like gendarmes and stuff, that would load people on trains to go to these death camps and things. You know, it was ordinary kind of bureaucrats and stuff that would just tick a box, and all of a sudden, like 300,000 people have been like liquidated. So yeah, it's driving at that. It's also driving as well, I think, when he says that as well about this he's talking to the captain and he's talking to the doctor, and he's saying mankind is not ready for this unlimited power and all that kind of stuff. And I think as well, when he's talking about that, I think he's talking about the hydrogen bomb. I really do, because the film has already showed us elements of the dark part of our minds that we all have. It's a major point of that film, even at face value. And he's saying he's basically saying, look at the horrors we inflicted on one another with analog weapons, with sticks, with essentially the equivalent of sticks and stones. In the past 50 years, humanity took itself to the brink of extinction, trying to wipe each other out, just purely for ideological reasons as well, nothing but. And all of a sudden, now we're in possession of the hydrogen bomb, 30 megaton nuclear warheads lying around. Do you really think we're that you know what I mean, that developed and advanced as a civilization? No, we're not. We're a fucking hot mess. We can't handle. There's no way. We're not ready for that kind of power. There they are, facing off on one another. Enough power to kill us all. You know? So he's driving at that as well. He's making a point about the nuclear arms race that was happening at the time as well. What else have we got? I mentioned the dog whistle, didn't I? You know, that scene with Altera, she whistles for. There's a scene in it where it's demonstrating, actually. It's quite good. It's very economical the way they do it. They demonstrate that this girl is young and pure and innocent, and she frolics with animals, and all the animals trust her and everything like that. But the reason they do it is because of her link to her father, and her father's link to the Krell technology on the planet. And the second she loses that innocence, one of the animals tries to kill her. But there is a scene where she calls all her friends, and she uses a dog whistle to do it. Come on, dog whistle. But we've got all that. So we've got all that going on, and then with that as well, let's look at it in a contemporary light. Whenever there's the robot in the film. He's a star of the show. I mean, he was the most expensive prop ever made at the time as well. He was like $250,000 or something to make him, and you can tell because he's sumptuously put together. He's a design classic from the second he appeared on camera. He was instantly, like part of that atomic age design aesthetic was Robby the Robot, and his character was great as well. But before Robby, every time you see a robot in science fiction, there was something. I think there was something to be feared from them. There was never like the hero, shall we say. There was always something to be feared. There was always the villain. There was always robots from Mars that been invading Earth or something like that. Or there was always that. I mean, I'm not sure which came first actually, whether this was before the Day the Earth Stood Still or not. But there was the robot from the Day the Earth Stood Still, which is sort of anti-hero-ish, wasn't it? It was it wasn't a hero robot. It wasn't a villain robot. I'm digressing, but in them days when people saw a robot on a film, they was like, oh, that's the bad guy. So that lines up as well with the film, because throughout the film, as the film's progressing, people were going, oh, it's the robot, isn't it? He's the one doing the murders. And then he has that great scene with the cook out there in the desert, and he's going to him, and they get drunk together, and he has just the right amount of brevity to a scene, which is really quite horrible, because they're talking, because the monster has crept in and he's slaughtered the engineer on the ship and everything like that, and his name is cleared. But to the 1956 audience watching that film for the first time, they're like, fucking heck, I thought it was the monster. I mean, I thought it was him going out and doing the murders. So it adds a little bit of value to them at the time watching that film, because that deepens the mystery for them. So to me, watching that in 2023, yeah, hats off. That was a great bit of writing. But also with him, I think as well, considering what I've just said as well about how robots were portrayed, he's showing the writers are showing some genuine, like, real scientific kind of thinking about it, and in that, it's like Asimov kind of laws, which was never really touched upon in science fiction before that. And so Robby the Robot, he can't harm no one. If he's asked to harm someone, he'll burn himself out, because one set of his diodes and gears and pulleys and knobs and all that are all going to him, go and do him because you've been told to. But his programming is saying, well, no, you can't, because you can't harm a living creature. You're not allowed to. So that order has to be cancelled, or else we're going to burn ourselves out. So, and I think that was a genuine, really modern way of doing it. And I think, to be honest with you, it rehabilitated robots for an entire generation of young people watching the film. Even though the film weren't aimed at specifically young people, it was only in the 1970s where they started showing that film in matinees and whatnot to young people, like along with the latest Elvis Presley film or something like that. So, but no, yeah, it is if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, because it is like just a out of the box, mate, great film. On its own, at face value, if you just want to go and watch a film about a man on a planet with an horrible monster in his psyche that is capable of doing great harm and violence and must be defeated, that film is great. If you want to watch a film with the right amount of pacing and action in it, the film's great. If you want to watch a film with great soundtrack, in fact, everybody says this in their videos, it'd be wrong for me not to say it, yeah, the first completely electronic film score ever in a film. If you want to watch that, it's great. You can go and watch it on that basis. But if you want to put all that together and add something more to it, which is greater than the sum of its parts, go and watch Forbidden Planet, and then come back to me in the comments and tell me what you think, because I love this film, seriously, and I hope you love it too. Anyway, that's about all.